All right, folks, here we are. We are at Standard 7, and basically what we need to answer is this question. What was the process of economic growth, its regional and national impact in the first half of the 19th century, and the different responses to it? All right, so basically to sum it up, it looks like this. America's great economic prosperity. We're doing well. We have a lot of wealth. In the early 19th century, had impacts both nationally and regionally in different sections. And it was a time when Americans reflected on social problems and sought reforms or changes that took hold in some regions more easily than in others. This standard guide is going to require you to demonstrate an understanding of these developments. So basically the developments in the reforms, the developments in industry, and the developments in politics. And here we go. Okay, let's first look at the changes in industry. All right, we're going to look at a person named Eli Whitney. All right, so let's just kind of back up a little bit, get into some world history. We are in a time period called the Industrial Revolution, excuse me, which started in England, and it gets its name from the stage of the 19th century when power-driven machines operated by semi-skilled or unskilled workers replaced hand tools operated by skilled laborers, altering the quality of work for many people. The U.S. inventor named Eli Whitney best illustrates the rise of industrialism with his invention of the cotton gin and also his development of interchangeable parts for the musket. All right, Whitney invented the cotton gin or engine in 1793. It is a machine that rapidly removes cotton plant seeds from the valuable cotton fiber used to make thread and fabric, by producing more cotton in a day than any person could working by hand. The gin reduced the cost of processing cotton and greatly raised the profit from growing it. To further cut costs and raise profits, unskilled slaves are often put to work running the cotton gin in the southern states. All right, so basically when you look at this machine being developed, you need to see its impact. Did it increase or decrease slavery? You have this machine that makes it easier to take seeds out of the cotton. So again, does it increase the amount of slaves that we need or decrease it? The answer is it increases the amount of slaves we need because we need more slaves to pick the cotton out of the field. It's easier to remove the seeds, so let's get more cotton out of the field so we can produce more clean cotton. All right, another industrial improvement Whitney developed was interchangeable parts. So prior to the industrialization, a broken mechanism or machine had to be discarded or replaced because all its parts had been handmade by skilled workers to fit only that mechanism. Whitney introduced the practice of manufacturing identical parts, so only the broken part would need to be replaced to repair the whole machine. He applied this process to making the musket or the gun. If one piece of the musket's mechanism broke, the owner could continue to use the musket after that piece was replaced with the matching piece. Interchangeable parts made it possible for semi-skilled workers to mass produce mechanical products. It's kind of like this. Back in the day, if your gun broke, you used to have to throw the whole gun away. Now you can just replace a piece of it. All right. All right, now let's move on a little bit to a different topic, and that's going to be our westward growth, or our impact of westward growth. And what we do is we call this manifest destiny, this topic here. And basically what you have here is this. Between 1800 and 1860, all right, the United States more than doubled in size because of the Louisiana Purchase, all right? And the number of states expanded from 16 to 33. There were three primary motivations for America's westward growth. Basically, first, here it is. The desire of most Americans to own their own land. And a lot of us might move for the same reasons today in our lives. Next thing is this. The discovery of gold and other valuable natural resources. So basically, wealth. You might move from where you live now because you might have an opportunity to make more wealth. Same type of idea. And three, the belief that the United States was destined to stretch across North America and go from sea to shining sea, or that's what's called manifest destiny. There's a little song that goes like this. Manifest destiny is all about you and me. traveling from east to west. Manifest destiny, oh, manifest destiny. It's all about you and me. You get the idea. Anyways, so there were strong economic motivations behind this belief as well as racist beliefs. We're going to go out there and stomp on the Indians. We don't like that race as a people. They're in our way. All right? But it became a popular political belief in the United States during the early 19th century. Manifest destiny was the name given to the idea that the United States would naturally occupy the territory between the Atlantic and the Pacific Oceans. The word manifest means obvious, and the word destiny means fate. So it's our obvious fate. According to Manifest Destiny, the obvious fate of the United States was to expand, like the song says, from sea to shining sea. All right, now let's look at some major changes that some people wanted to make during this time period from around 1800 to 1860 all the way up to the Civil War. And we call these reform movements. All right, to prepare for questions over this standard, let's begin reviewing the process by using the breakdown of each of these following movements. And we're going to look at three, but there's really four. All right, so let's look at these three first. All right, so first one, and basically what we call that is temperance. All right, the way I like to remember temperance is this, that a lot of men, after drinking alcohol, would get a temper and get mad, maybe beat their wives or their kids or something like that. So a lot of women would come along and basically try to stop the selling of alcohol in America. And so basically the idea of temperance is this: people should drink less alcohol, or alcohol should be banned altogether. All right? The issue was, an important one, because what it's going to do is cause an impact in the churches. Protestant churches began to grow. Religious organizations began to have more people in their churches and organize in a way to where maybe they can make an impact. Especially in the western and rural sections of our country. Women, though, played the biggest role in pushing for the temperance movement, or the stopping and selling of alcohol. All right, and this later is going to lay the foundation for the women's movement. And we'll talk about that in a minute. All right, our second movement is going to be called abolition. And the root word of abolition is abolish. We're going to try to abolish or stop slavery. All right, here is the issue. Slavery should be abolished, and it should not be allowed in the new states. All right, here's its impact. Most slavery and its expansion became an important political issue. All right, so people are going to begin to argue, should they have it in their states or not have it in their states? And this is where we're going to begin to start dividing as a country. Southerners are going to want more slaves. Northerners don't want many up there. All right, and again, women are going to be big in abolition. And this also is going to be a part of that foundation for getting women their right to vote, or just a part of the women's movement as a whole. All right, the next big reform here, or change, is going to be the idea of public schools. Before this, there was no such thing as a public school funded by taxpayers. All right, here's the issue. All children should be required to attend free school supported by taxpayers and staffed by trained teachers. All right, so the impact of this is established education as a right for all children. And as a state and local issue, it's began to improve the quality of education because trained teachers will be in the schoolhouses. Those are your three big issues. All right, the next big issue is going to be called women's suffrage. Basically what you have here is this: women's rights were few in the early 1800s. And now it's time to change that. So here we go. Let's talk about suffrage a little more. That's right. Women's rights were few. They could not vote. And that's what's called suffrage. They're suffering. And they want to relieve that suffering by being able to vote and decide how to make changes for their lives. All right, and often they even lacked their own legal custody of their own children. Women weren't seen as equal as men. All right, most men and most women believed this was fitting and proper. Most men and women thought that was right, that women can't vote, they can't own their own kids. They thought it was right, men and women, because it's just traditional. All right, but some women are going to fight for change. All right, one exception to this rule here is going to be a person named Elizabeth Cady Stanton. All right, she was an outspoken advocate for women's full rights of citizenship, including voting rights and parental and custody rights. In 1848, she organized the Seneca Falls Convention. All right, this will be America's first women's rights convention, and it's in New York. All right, so it's in the city of Seneca, New York. Seneca Falls Convention in New York. All right, delegates adopt a declaration of women's independence, including women's suffrage. All right, so they basically came up with a piece of paper that said these are the rights of women. Now, is this established law? No, it just basically put it in print, and this is what the women are wanting at the time. All right, now historians often cite that the Seneca Falls Convention as the event that shakes up the world, or excuse me, the new America, beginning the organized efforts of women in the United States to gain civil rights equal to those of men. Now, it's going to be quite a while before women will get their right to vote, but this will be the beginning of it. It's Seneca Falls Convention and Elizabeth Cady Stanton. All right. All right, now let's talk about a controversial president during this time. His name is going to be Andrew Jackson, and we're going to call this topic Jacksonian Democracy. All right, basically goes like this. President Andrew Jackson and his supporters shared a political philosophy later referred to as Jacksonian Democracy. That's why it's our title. All right, it sought a stronger presidency and executive branch and a weaker Congress. All right, out of respect for the common man, it also sought to broaden public participation in government. So he wanted more people in government or involved, voting. So, do you think he expands suffrage or decreases suffrage? That's right, he's going to expand suffrage to include all adult white males. So every white male, all right, not just landowners, can vote. Another principle of Jacksonian democracy was that politicians should be allowed to appoint their followers to government jobs as a way of limiting the power of elite groups. So basically what it happens is this. If you become the president of the United States, you get to spoil yourself. So we call this the spoil system, and give your supporters jobs. In Andrew Jackson's situation, they became known as the kitchen cabinet. And today we call these folks the cabinet members. We have Secretary of State, Secretary of Treasurer, Secretary of Defense, and the list goes on and on. They're all cabinet members. And in Andrew Jackson's case, they met in the kitchen. That's why they're called the kitchen cabinet. And again, this is Andrew Jackson spoiling himself by giving his supporters jobs that got him the presidency. All right. All right, so continue with Jacksonian democracy. Basically, this next topic we're going to call it popular political culture, because what Andrew Jackson did was basically made politics popular. People began to become more involved. All right, so basically what you have here is this. Andrew Jackson's presidential campaign saw an increase in public participation in politics, and things got kind of rough. Jackson's side accused his opponents of flattering European royalty and misusing public funds. The opponent accused Jackson of unfaithfulness in his marriage and of massacring Native Americans because of the Trail of Tears, and of illegally executing convicted soldiers and of dueling. Now, are these true? A lot of it was. All right, these accusations were publicized in songs, pamphlets, posters, and label buttons all over America. So more people are going to become more interested in politics, making politics popular, much like it is today. A voter could find all these things. They could find posters and buttons and all these everything at the first ever campaign rallies and even barbecues that Andrew Jackson and his opponents put on. Welcome to popular political culture. All right. Lastly, we kind of end like this. Americans are going to become, you could say it like this, more in love with our country. They begin to like our country so much more and begin to see ourselves as one. There is no more division between our states. All right. As a people, Americans in Jackson's day believed in manifest destiny. We believed that we would rule from sea to shining sea. All right. So people are going to begin to push out west. They believed that their nation was different and, check this out, and superior to other nations because Americans of that time shared the Protestant religion and an English language. All right, their ancestry was the same and their culture was the same. There's some immigrants here, actually a lot of immigrants, but there's going to be a whole bunch later on. We'll actually have a whole topic just on immigration. They believed it was their duty to expand the hold of their religion, their language, their ancestry, and culture all the way to, bam, the Pacific Ocean. All right? And to remake all of North America as the founding fathers had remade its Atlantic coast over here. Altogether, these beliefs comprise American nationalism. And here we go, America.